welcome back to part 2 of our podcast. Again, I'm Spencer Sivey, Vice President of Sales at SOCi.ai. And joining us again, Dana Pate, the founder of CEO of Stitch Marketing. And if you weren't with us previously, you may have seen her on various industry conference stages like AIM or NAA. As a brand experience strategist in multifamily, Dana is a consultant for corporate branding and repositioning, portfolio assessments, and strategic marketing planning. Also joining us once again, appreciate it, is Josh Glastein, founder of Glas Haus Partners, which is an independent consulting firm on technology advisory in the real estate space. He works closely with property management companies and prop tech startups and venture funds. So, we had a great conversation in part 1. And I think what we want to talk about today, or at least what I'm curious about, and I think others would be curious about, is what kind of forward thinking about AI and what it's going to look like in the latter parts of 2026 and 2027. I think before I jump into that, what I'm seeing a lot, through our clients, the companies we work with, is just this formal AI reviews process before adoption. So it appears to be, a committee. They're kind of uncertain. They want to make sure they're making the right decisions. And I would say, Josh, you're probably a good one to kick this off because you've probably done a lot of these in your day and your time in this industry. So what's been your experience with that? What can you share with the listeners? Pitfalls, things that you've seen, things to avoid.
Sure. I would say that AI review isn't too dissimilar from a traditional technology review or an ecosystem review. So it should be done for all projects or all organizations. When you're engaging in a new project, whether it's AI or traditional technology, you want to make sure that you are taking into consideration things like data security, data privacy, any compliance considerations or regulations that you need to consider, from a legal perspective. And that's on top of like the functionality that you're looking at. So with AI, it becomes a little bit more complicated. There's a little bit more nuances because you're not necessarily in like a closed system. You're in something where data may be used to train other AI systems. So how is your data protected? How do you make sure that you write in those constraints into a contract? And then on top of that, how does it, you do consider it, how do you integrate with the other systems and making sure that one system doesn't have access to data from another system that it shouldn't have access to, and similar kind of nuances like that. So you have to make sure that you're engaging, again, all the people that you would have engaged with in a prior assessment, but you're talking to your legal and your compliance team, you're talking to your marketing team, you're talking to your IT cybersecurity team, and you're talking to operations potentially as well from a functionality perspective. So you have to make sure all those right people in the room and you're doing a comprehensive analysis of this and not just kind of defaulting to, like, again, I think I talked about this earlier, where with AI you get this kind of conception that it's easy, right? And you can't fall into that trap, right? Where it's not just let me open up a browser and talk to ChatGPT. There's real impact here, and you have to assess it just like any other major technology initiative.
Well, as a sales guy, that hurt my head a little bit. I got to be
honest. This is why the sales cycle takes so long.
Right. I was going to ask you, like, how long is that going to take? Jeez.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the organization, right? I mean, I've worked with some of the smaller guys, and then, my last, full-time real job, I was at a huge organization, like a top 12 NMHC firm. And you could see the changes as we continue to scale and get bigger, and more people started becoming, like adding to that room. That room used to be very small. That room was, a marketing decision. It was me and my managing director. And then all of a sudden it became, we hired, a director of IT. Now he's in the room. Oh, wait, now we have a chief legal officer. Now she's in the room. And so that process, the internal sales process of, if I, as a marketing, manager, director, VP of any sort, have a solution, I've done my, research, I've demoed it, I've talked to other people that are using it, I feel fully behind that this is going to be a game changer for our organization. That's just like one sales process. Now I have to turn around and sell internally to my own organization and have meeting after meeting where they then ask me all of these legal questions. And I'm like, legally blonde over here. I'm like, Elle Woods. I'm like, this is not like, I will get back to you on those things. And then you have to go back essentially to the vendor partner and have them start getting in those conversations. So I will say AI has complicated those conversations because there's not a lot of experts on that. People may say that they are, but things change so fast. There's so many tools that are out there. There's so many different ways to interpret and use cases that it's not, those committees aren't about like slowing innovation down, which I say that because I used to think that. I have to repeat to myself, this is progress. This is to make sure that when we roll it out, we get it right, Dana. Like, don't get frustrated that you're having to say the same thing 12 times just to get things done. But it's really about making sure that innovation is happening responsibly. And so being a part of that process, but the most important piece is making sure that you have the right people in the room. Because again, that example on part one that I had mentioned where things can go sideways really quick if you don't have the right people as a part of that decision on whether or not to proceed, that they're going to, you know, if they hear about it later, it's going to complicate your rollout process.
Yeah, it's
I wrote
really
that
all
down, so I can remember that when
yeah, give us
when I
more
go through that
internal
process
sales
tonight.
resources. That's what we need. Give me more like one pagers, cheat sheets. Hey, here are the questions that now like a CFO would ask you, so then I can quickly do my study guide and go and prepare.
That would be super helpful. It's all about risk mitigation, right? And that as the organization size grows, the risk exposure grows as well. So you want to make sure that you're balancing that out with whatever functionality you're trying to introduce is, and you just have to take all that into consideration. But I love that idea about creating that.
Out, by the way, you know,
yeah.
So it's good. So I think, you know, when that committee getting bigger and larger, is that like, I mean, I get it. It's collaboration. It's touching a lot of the organization, but is it legitimate concern? I guess what I've seen is some cases it's legitimately concern, you know, rooted in basically fear and misunderstanding. It's one or the other, you know. So I don't know what you guys' thoughts there, but I've seen kind of both.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some fear, and I think a lot of it stems from kind of the regulations that we've seen over the last several years with things like CCPA and GDPR and all that stuff. And you can't erase that, and it still exists, and it becomes just more magnified with something like AI because you have less control over where that data is going, or at least less, you know, you get less insight into it, or you feel less comfortable about it. So there's more unknowns there. So I think it's just something that people are wary about. In addition to that, you have just like the models themselves, like when that's interesting, and this from a marketing perspective, like let's say you're introducing a chatbot or something that's going to respond to reviews automatically. Is it going to respond the way that I want it to respond, or is it going to damage my brand reputation? What happens there? How do I take that into consideration? How do I test that? How do I feel comfortable with it? So I think there's like some old fears and some new fears, and it's kind of balancing all of that out. And that's why it's taking kind of a long time for folks to introduce these tools. And definitely it takes longer at the larger organizations. But yeah, I think that's part of the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, one group gets sued, and all of a sudden we have to introduce all of these legal things. But I mean, yeah, to Josh's point that, you know, our world is changing, and as new tools are coming into play, there are, you know, new concerns and legitimate concerns around those things, and making sure that, okay, well, we were okay with Jane responding to those reviews, but now that, you know, Jane, the robot, is responding, now all of a sudden we want to make sure that we have all of these trainings and stipulations and guardrails associated with it. So it's almost like, you know, just transferring responsibility, but weighing the risk versus the reward. What is the likelihood of this happening? How can we use AI to help AI do its job better? There's just so many conversations around it, but they're also new. And that's what just lengthens the process of a lot of these decisions.
Yeah, I think some of that goes back to like not replacing your workforce also. So AI should be considered, you know, a digital teammate to your resources and not replacing them. In most cases, it's going to do a lot of those menial tasks that they have to do. But anything that's a higher risk or higher exposure, that should be escalated for human review before going out. And that's most AI tools are getting to that point where they do that. So there is a higher comfort level with that. It's not necessarily as wild westy as it was a year or two ago. It's sort of stabilizing a bit. So we're getting there.
Yeah, I think the guardrails are important. I mean, we have those built into our agentic workforce because, yeah, there's a trust factor, there's a verification, because some companies are scared of Jane doing reviews, and they, and they're gonna have like guardrails.
Yeah, it might be
there.
better
And
to use the AI. Let's take the human out.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it actually leads to a really good question for you guys, which is, you think fast forwarding, a year from now, late 2026, 2027, like how different is this all going to look, inside marketing teams and organizations, as it relates to kind of tech and AI, in your opinion? What may it look like, you think?
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead,
from from my perspective, I think the biggest shift in just seeing again, like where a lot of AI tools that I'm being marketed or that I'm working with and whatnot, it's more or less about replacing the manual auditing process and AI honestly being a little bit more quiet in the background. Because right now AI is pretty loud, right? Like Jane's answering our reviews, she's answering our phone calls, she's doing all these different, tricks and leasing things. But I think that where AI has the most potential to be a game changer for an organization is in the background. It's taking away those manual processes, it's consolidating data, it's streamlining that information so that the humans at your business have, again, more breathing room, more understanding to put a narrative behind all the numbers that are out there. Like the data themselves, like we have more information than we've ever had before, and none of us know what to do with it, right? Like we're all just trying to piece things together and put the puzzle with all of these different groups. And so I think that as AI continues to evolve, that'll be where the biggest impact comes for sure.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right, Dana. I agree. I think we really need to really our resource, our human resource, to have more time to do some of that more strategic thinking and those kind of high value tasks where you don't necessarily want a machine doing it. Anything that's commonplace or routine, machine can handle that. Where you need to, talk to an upset resident or something, where you need something that's a little bit more high touch and some white glove service. I think people still expect that human interaction and they respond better to it. I think that may change over time, but either way, I don't think you can ever remove that human interaction. We as humans are kind of social animals and social creatures, and we crave that interaction. And where we want something that's efficient, and just kind of, I need to get something done, that's where AI comes into it. And most of the times it can take care of it. But when you need something that's going to make you feel better and make you feel supported, that's going to be the difference maker. And that's where your human resources are going to come into it, because you can't guarantee how a computer is going to make somebody feel. You need somebody who's actually thinking about that. And I think that's just, I don't know if we're ever going to get away from that yet.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can agree with that. I mean, I think it's what that human interaction, how it engages, I guess, is what's going to change dramatically. Because honestly, one of our sort of missions here is, and this is not because we think it's a mission, it's because our clients across the board are yelling out loud saying we have too much on our plate. Danny, you just said it, like we have too much going on. It's just, it's hurting us. And so the whole idea is to pull them out of the platform, right? And out of that tech, and have obviously agents involved. Obviously you can step in where you want. So I was going to ask, I asked about the, what a tech stack could look like, but you think about it in that light. I mean, how would you frame that? How would you look at a tech stack in the future?
I could jump in. So, I mean, I kind of talked a little bit about it earlier, where you have like these two branches, where you have like the best of suite or best of breed, and you have like your combination of best of breed applications. But either way, what you're going to have is this layer that's presented to your team, or the resident for that matter, or the prospect for that matter. That's that single pane of glass, and it's kind of doing all the work behind the scenes to aggregate that data, to pull the relevant data from different sources and present what's most important and what the end user wants to see. So you're removing all of the app fatigue and the different, going to different places and trying to be all over the place and figure out where, which priority list should I look at next. You're going to have that one layer that just elevates everything that you need to work on and prioritizes it for you, and can do that and assign a risk to it or whatever, to make sure that you are working on the most important thing. And that's just going to it's just going to make your guys' lives better. So, and be more effective. Because I mean, I know for me, I hate doing like trivial tasks. Like every so often I need to do a brain dead one, but most of the time I like doing things where I have to think about something and it's going to be high value add and I know it's going to have an impact. And that's where AI is going to lead us. It's going to present all of those opportunities to us so that we can focus on the important things.
Mhm.
And it's going to be that.
I want to move to that utopia. I want to live in a world where just everything that I need, I wake up and just all
right
my
there.
important tasks are prioritized for me. My day is planned. I mean, that's where we're all trying to go, right? We're just trying
Right.
to mitigate the noise, but also the importance of trusting the data that is presented to you. So that glass that Josh, like, I love that analogy, but that has to be like clean, that literally I want to be able to see through. I want to know exactly where the information is coming from, and it all has to blend well together. And that will require certain, suppliers and prop tech companies to collaborate and work together for the betterment of the industry, and not just, oh, well, we'll offer that too, even though we know that we can't do it very well, but we'll just be an add-on over here. It's that transparency, that integration, that true partnership that's going to help make everyone's lives a lot easier and make us be able to make more proactive decisions. Because that's where I'm most excited for AI to go is, okay, now you're giving me all this information, but now what do I do with it? Like that extra layer of support. And I'm seeing it with some companies and they're chatting through it. And it's really exciting stuff to be like, hey, you can talk to it, like you can brainstorm, right? Based on the information that is available to you. So instead of, having to call an all hands meeting or have, 17 calls like that or a Teams chat, now I can just have a quick, let me just, throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And okay, those are the best 3 recommendations. Great. I'm going to now pitch that to my team. I'm going to go bring that to my ownership group. And that's where, again, the accuracy of that data is so imperative, because once that trust breaks, it's like a relationship, right? Like, if you're not where you said you were going to be, and then we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a conversation about it. And if that keeps happening, then this is not going to work out, right? So it's very similar to that.
Not a new problem, Dana. That's always been an issue.
And I think the fragmentation of the data too, that's a challenge. I mean, we have a lot of disparate system process products out there, so it's we kind of evangelize here about just having a combined unified data tech stack, right?
And that's where your agentic comes into, Spencer. Like you can have an agent in one system that goes to another system to get whatever data is in that other system if needed, right? So they don't, like the API integrations that we used to have don't necessarily have to be there in the same way that they did in the past.
Yeah. Well, I think, sort of tying this up a little bit here, if you're thinking about advising a CMO, which you're already doing, but if this particular CMO is feeling behind and, like they're lost, what is the first things and moves they should make from the first, 30, 60, 90 days? What would you advise there?
Yeah, I'll take this one first. The first thing I would recommend is do not panic buy. Don't go from your previous organization, say, well, these are the 10 things that worked there. Let me copy and paste it over here, right? Like just because it worked where you were previously or in another life does not mean that it is the same organizational structure, the same portfolio, the same. Like there are so many variables with every single firm that I've been with, I've seen the insides of. Everyone does things a little bit differently, which makes it very fun, but also very complicated. And so really spending, the time and the energy to get clear on what you already have and what resources are working, what is being productive to your bottom line, auditing your current tech stack, identifying the friction points within that stack, and then benchmarking and baselining. Okay, this is where we are today. These are the metrics that I can go against. If I were to introduce a new technology, a new company, a new vendor, let me pick one and let me introduce that first and then benchmark and show the value of it over time. And then we can add a second. Like, don't just try and do everything all at once. I see that happen time and time again. And that goes back to setting expectations, right? Like setting expectations of, hey, like, I'm not going to probably do anything for 30 days in your eyes. You're not going to see a lot of action coming from me because I'm absorbing and I'm researching and I'm cleaning things up. I'm cleaning up a lot on the back end, right? You thought you had good reporting. I take one look at that Excel spreadsheet and I realize this is not, none of these numbers add up. And so I think like taking the opportunity to really, like, again, evaluate what you have and audit before implementing and trying to be the hero, to say the least.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you really want to start with that one high impact workflow. What is the area that you're inefficient at? What is causing you problems? What's causing you pain? And can AI help there? And that's really where you want to focus. The companies that win won't be the ones that move fast and just deploy, deploy, deploy. They'll be the ones that integrate the AI thoughtfully into how they operate and where they need that solution. So it's really about that thoughtful process and going back to looking at your processes and really understanding how you work. How does your organization work? What are you good at? What are you bad at? And where do you need the help?
Incredible points, incredible conversations. You too. I appreciate it. And I think it's fair to say if you're in marketing now, leading marketing, man, there's a lot coming at you. It's changing every day. And so, the goal, as I'm taking it from you guys, isn't to adopt everything, right? It's just to make smart moves and get the right people in the room, as many as you need, I guess, and build from there. So look, Dana, Josh, I really appreciate you sharing your perspective and being so candid. And one thing I really like about these podcasts is that we're not putting just theory out there. We're bringing in people who are in it every day. So I think our industry appreciates that, because that's where we're at. We're really at the moment where people have to, they need help and they need ideas and they need leaders in the industry like yourself. So I just want to close out and say thank you very much. Great conversations, and just
You're
anyone who's
welcome.
listening, and this was helpful, make sure you subscribe on Spotify, YouTube. We've got more conversations coming, focusing on what's next in multifamily. So thank you again, and Les.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.